Welcome to the SI overview presentation from the International Center for Supplemental Instruction. This presentation will provide information regarding SI as a best practice for academic support and retention. The following objectives will be addressed. What is SI? Who are the key stakeholders in SI? How and why does SI work? How does SI impact student success? Relevant data regarding SI's effectiveness will be presented, as well as information regarding the international expansion of SI. We begin the presentation by asking you to consider the following two reflection questions. First, why are students not successful in some of our courses? And secondly, what are the impacts on your institution? Please take a moment to consider your responses. We encourage you to jot down some ideas that come to mind. Feel free to pause the presentation to allow more time to reflect or conduct a brief discussion on these questions if you are viewing this as a team. We will incorporate typical responses to these questions throughout the presentation. This infographic of today's college student captures research by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation from 2017. As you view each descriptive category displayed, you will notice that today's college students vary greatly in terms of their demographics. Many of today's college students have children and families they are supporting. Most students work full or part-time jobs, and we know from our experiences that many students hold more than one job while attending college. College students vary in age, race, and gender, and more than half of all students receive Pell Grants, indicating financial needs for many students. Thinking back to our first reflection question regarding why some students are not successful, this visual tells a story of students whose focus may be split among many factors while they pursue their college degree. Few students, in fact, have the advantage of focusing solely on their coursework. This also demonstrates that there is no one-size-fits-all approach that will work for all students because each student has a unique situation and unique needs. Let's next examine the question of why we need academic support in our institutions. Learning is the ultimate goal of what we do in higher education. Our goal is that every student graduates from our institutions understanding the key concepts that they need to be successful in the workforce and in life. This leads us to the second reason why we need academic support: to improve graduation and retention rates. Sadly, nearly half of the students who enter our doors as freshmen will not go on to graduate. Many of us are familiar with Vincent Tinto's research regarding student success. These data from 1993 demonstrate that even though many students who leave their first institution do graduate from a subsequent institution, sadly, nearly 43% of all college students do not graduate. Unfortunately, current statistics are consistent with Tinto's research. Based upon data from the U.S. Department of Education, National Center for Education Statistics, the graduation rate for four-year institutions is 62%. You will notice this rate varies among public, private, and private for-profit institutions, but the data are still grim. Decades later, we have collectively not improved very much in terms of students graduating within the 6-year financial aid eligibility timeframe. The rates for success for two-year institutions are even more dismal, with an overall rate of completion, which for two-year institutions means completion of a two-year degree or certificate, of just 33% of all students. Traditional academic support programs include such initiatives as individual tutoring, study skills courses, and remedial coursework, or perhaps in more current terms, co-requisite coursework. When we identify topics that would benefit students, we frequently provide workshops or seminars to assist them. For students whose emotional and mental health may be of concern, we provide counseling and other services to support them. All of these efforts meet different student needs in different ways, and we would not suggest withholding any of these services from them. In fact, at UMKC, we offer these services as well. SI is a complement to other support services, not a replacement. So let's gain a deeper understanding of traditional approaches to allow for a clearer picture of how SI complements these services. Historically, academic support has worked to identify students who are at risk so that we can provide those specific individuals with support. We ask ourselves, who are the high risk students? Or who are the students most likely to drop out? To identify these high risk students, we use both quantitative and qualitative data. Here are some of the quantitative measures available to us: standardized test scores like the ACT or SAT, high school class rank, high school GPA or course performance, even diagnostic testing for students entering our institutions. For qualitative measures, we rely to a large degree upon student self identification. The student must refer themselves in some way to access assistance or disclose to someone that they would like support. In some cases, as caring professionals, we observe that a student seems to need assistance and initiate that conversation ourselves. Yet all of these qualitative methods require either student initiated behavior, which we know not every student will do or feels comfortable to do, or guesswork on the part of a faculty or staff member. As a result, many students fall through the cracks. Identifying students who will benefit from academic support is a challenge at best. As some of you likely considered in our opening reflection questions, some students who were very successful in high school struggle with the challenges of college coursework. The reverse is also true. A student who struggled in high school may come to college and flourish. So if we attempt to identify students who are at risk based upon their data as they enter, there will be many students we miss and others we provide unnecessary support. In short, there are several challenges with traditional approaches. We do not always get it right when we attempt to identify who exactly is at risk because there is the potential for every student to be at risk at any point in their college career. In addition, it is expensive to provide many of the services we traditionally implement. Certainly, it is worth the cost, yet one to one tutoring can be an expensive model on a larger scale. Next, consider a student's progress during the term. By the time a student self identifies or we notice they are experiencing academic challenges, much of the term may have passed. And finally, it is difficult to evaluate the effectiveness of most academic interventions, which may result in the implementations of methods that are not, in fact, effective in helping students succeed. Now that we have a firm grounding in the challenges facing our institutions, let's move into our overview of the SI model and how it addresses these challenges. We'll start with the SI story. Supplemental instruction was created in 1973 at the University of Missouri, Kansas City by Dr. Deanna Martin, who at that time was a graduate student in the School of Education. 10 years prior to the development of SI in 1963, the University of Kansas City, a private institution, had joined the public University of Missouri system, becoming UMKC. In the years that followed, UMKC's enrollment grew, and the new, larger population of UMKC students demonstrated a greater variance in academic preparedness. In a 2008 speech given by Dr. Martin at the University of Sydney, Australia, Dr. Martin references the larger context of the civil rights movement in the 1960s and 70s as the impetus for the creation of SI. Dr. Martin states, and I quote, "The gatekeepers in our institutions, often with a lot of reservation, began to enroll students that a decade before would not have been admitted." Dr. Martin goes on to say, "There were those of us who were thrilled by this new openness," end quote. Yet as new students were admitted, instructional methods did not evolve. This caused retention and graduation rates to fall. A committee, of which then graduate student Deanna Martin was a member, was formed to find a solution to the retention issue. The committee could not lower academic standards as a way to boost retention, as students still needed to graduate with the skills and abilities to be successful in their chosen fields of study. As is typically true, funds were difficult to obtain, so the solution could not cost a lot of money. And above all else, whatever method was identified, UMKC did not want to lose students, as retention was the primary goal. The committee considered several of the typical options for academic success that we reviewed earlier: study skills courses, tutoring, remedial coursework, or developmental education. In the end, the committee rejected all of these traditional approaches, seeking instead a concept that would cost less and have a higher likelihood of retention success. A local Kansas City funder offered a grant of $7,000, which would equate to approximately $30,000 in today's dollars, to target UMKC's health science schools. Deanna Martin formulated a concept rooted in student learning theory, which was approved by the committee to be piloted. This pilot, which was originally called Supplemental to Instruction, was highly successful in assisting students at achieving higher levels of academic performance. And from that original successful pilot grew the model that is now known as supplemental instruction. The goals of this new academic support method were very clear: to improve student learning, improve student performance, and to increase retention. The components of SI that Deanna Martin created retained some of the attributes of traditional approaches, but combined them in a new element. The main component involves student facilitated review or study sessions led by a near peer called an SI leader who had already successfully completed the course, preferably with the same instructor. Rather than targeting at risk students, SI targets historically difficult courses. The SI leader sits through the class again with their peers, demonstrating model student behavior while revisiting the course content so that they can plan effective study sessions. SI is offered to all enrolled students. Remember, no longer focusing on at-risk students, but focused instead on challenging course content. This aspect of SI eliminates the stigma that can be associated with academic support and reinforces the notion that every student can benefit from these methods. SI is regularly scheduled. Ideally, the schedule is set before the term or very early on in the term so that students can build the session time into their schedules and routines from day one of the term. SI happens outside of the classroom setting in a welcoming space for peer-to-peer interaction. In its purest form, SI is voluntary, meaning that students attend by their choice rather than because they are required to do so. We at the International Center do hear from institutions in which parameters have been specified within a grant project or for some other reason that students are required to attend SI. While requiring attendance may create challenges to implementation, we recognize this is a necessity in some situations. Finally, SI is anonymous, meaning that faculty are not made aware of which students are attending or not attending SI throughout the term. Maintaining anonymity prevents an unconscious bias the instructor may have when comparing the student's SI attendance to their academic performance. Instructors are still able to tout the benefits of SI to the entire class and to use aggregate data to see the positive impact of SI without knowing exactly which students are attending or how often they are attending until after the term. The four key stakeholders within the SI program are represented by the four bands within the diamond logo for the International Center for SI. Students are the foundation of the model, as it not only supports their learning, but they are active participants in attending and engaging in SI sessions. Faculty members play a key role in SI as well. Their buy-in is essential to a successful SI program. Ideally, they champion SI among their students and work very closely with the SI leader throughout the term, helping to identify challenging concepts within the course, discussing ideas for activities within sessions, and soliciting feedback from the leader about areas in which students may be confused or have questions. The SI supervisor is also a critical stakeholder. The SI supervisor works with the faculty to identify courses for SI support, hires and trains SI leaders, and ensures that leaders are supported, including continued professional growth throughout the term. Finally, there is the SI leader. The SI leaders are those model students who are hired, trained, and developed to plan and facilitate SI sessions in conjunction with the faculty who teach the course. You'll recall that a primary difference between SI and traditional academic support approaches is that SI focuses on challenging courses rather than at-risk students. So when we target classes for SI, we are seeking those classes on our campus that historically are difficult for students. These may be courses that are required for many students or may be prerequisite courses that present a challenge to many students. Sometimes these courses are referred to as gatekeeper courses because they are also serving as a barrier or hurdle for students in their progression toward a degree. We also look at those courses that have high rates of Ds, Fs, or withdrawals as a way to determine if a course is challenging for a large number of students. In this presentation, we use a 25% DFW rate as a possible starting point for identifying these difficult courses. Please know that this percentage is determined within each campus. On some campuses, a much lower percent, say 10% of students earning Ds, Fs, or withdrawing, would be a red flag. On other campuses, the percent may be higher than 25%. So selecting which courses would be a good fit for SI is not dependent on a specific percent. Each institution should evaluate the data relative to other courses on campus and consider the context within their institution. One of the reasons SI is effective is that it shifts us from the instructional paradigm to the learning paradigm. In an instructional paradigm, learning is instructor centered. Learning is cumulative and linear, and knowledge is stored and delivered. Think about the instructional paradigm as what would occur in a perfect world. In a perfect world, we could all pick up a textbook on any topic, read it, retain that information, and be able to apply it. A learning paradigm, on the other hand, recognizes that learning is student centered. The student must make meaning of the content, which is an active, messy process and can be uncomfortable as the learner grapples with challenging content. In a learning paradigm, learning is not delivered, it is constructed by the learner. The instructor centered learning environment has some root problems that must be overcome. First, students' pragmatic approaches to learning leads to passiveness. This is not at all to say that students are lazy, but rather that they are practical. Many students adopt the stance that in the classroom or lecture hall, their role is to receive information rather than engage in content. And from the instructor's perspective, with so many learning objectives to be addressed within the course syllabus, there may not be time for students to participate more actively within that lecture setting. Another root problem to overcome is that in the presence of a recognized authority, the tendency is to defer to that authority or to be silent. Regardless of how welcoming a professor is to questions, regardless of how personable they are, students are frequently intimidated by the authority of their instructor. If a question arises for a student during lecture, it is many students' response to hold on to that question to see if there's a way to answer it on their own. So, for the messy process of learning to occur, we must avoid already failed processes such as the dependency cycle. In a dependency cycle, as depicted here, the instructor provides the information to the students. If it appears that students do not understand the information, let's say a brave student does raise their hand to ask a question, the instructor is very happy to provide that information a second time, perhaps in a different way. Yet, remember, this is a very challenging concept, and it is clear to the instructor that many students are still confused. So, very patiently, the instructor provides the information in yet another way, providing perhaps more examples for clarity. What SI does is break that dependency cycle. In SI, the instructor remains critical to the process of learning. They are, after all, the content expert, and they are adept at conveying the information to students. But in the safe space of an SI session, the SI leader gets the students to tell each other. And before the session is over, the leader checks for their understanding by getting the students to tell the leader what they know. How does the SI session work? SI is not tutoring and it is not relecturing. It is instead student to student processing of material. The leader's role is to plan the session, to facilitate, and to ensure that time is well spent within the session. An analogy we sometimes use to describe SI in relationship to other models of academic support is that of preventative care versus urgent care. SI is the preventative care. In this case, our yoga session, regularly attending yoga builds flexibility, strength, and serenity, just as going to SI sessions regularly builds learning skills and deepens understanding of the course content. As with yoga, everyone can benefit from SI because everyone, from the A student to the struggling student, improves their learning of the content the more guided encounters with it that they have. Other models of academic support, such as tutoring, are still necessary for emergent needs. Thinking of our analogy, regardless of how fit one may be by doing yoga daily, emergencies do happen. For example, yoga cannot prevent a fall that results in a sprained ankle. Just as you sometimes need a trained professional to look after a particular injury or ailment, students also have a need for tutors to provide one on one assistance targeting a specific content or concept that is challenging to them. Now that we've explored what the components of SI are and how it compares to other academic support models, it is helpful to have this very simple definition. SI is organized group study time facilitated by a near peer. At the heart of this simple definition is the idea of group study. We know, based upon research from Johnson & Johnson regarding cooperative small group learning, that students who study in groups learn 2.5 times more than those who study alone if the groups stay on task. Staying on task is a huge caveat here. Groups studying on their own can be effective, but for those of us who have ever worked in groups, we know that groups can sometimes stray off course. Or there may be a member of the group who has specific questions, and the group spends time discussing that student's needs to the exclusion of other critical content. In SI, the SI leader has a plan, and the leader facilitates the group to ensure that they stay on task with the most challenging concepts. To effectively tackle challenging material, students in SI sessions engage in the learning paradigm to construct knowledge through the process of social interaction, exploration, application, and integration. In SI sessions, meaning is made by the learners as they are facilitated in this work by the SI leader. SI leaders help students construct knowledge and they see the skills students gain. Sierra, one of UMKC's SI leaders in Spanish 120, states that students learn how to organize and effectively study the class material. Students can apply course content to real life scenarios. For Spanish, that means, for example, students are able to have conversations in Spanish to apply the skills learned in class. And to Sierra's third point, they are able to engage and learn with their classmates in a safe, comfortable setting away from class. SI participants also see the benefits of attending. Paige at UMKC says that with SI, she is more comfortable asking questions, she can talk and hear others, and is able to put lecture material into words that she can understand. The benefits observed by SI leaders and experienced by SI participants are demonstrated within the three substantiated research claims of SI. 1. SI participants receive a lower rate of Ds, Fs, and withdrawals. 2. SI participants earn higher mean final course grades. And 3. SI participants re-enroll and graduate at higher rates than students who do not participate. These claims have been validated by the U.S. Department of Education in 1992, which named SI as an exemplary program, and more recently reaffirmed in an extensive literature review conducted by Dawson et al. In 2014. There are benefits of SI not only for the students who participate, but for faculty members, SI leaders, and for institutions as a whole. Here are some of the benefits that faculty experience with SI. Students who participate in SI earn higher course grades, and of course, faculty want students to be successful and earn higher grades. Students understand the subject matter better, and interestingly, as a result of their participation with the SI leaders, faculty members adopt the strategies used in SI sessions and implement them during class time. Other benefits are that course evaluations improve, valuable feedback is gained from SI leaders, and students involved in SI often carry those participation habits back to the lecture and may participate more in class. There are several benefits for the SI leaders themselves. SI leaders gain leadership skills and valuable experience facilitating groups. In addition, SI leaders develop a deeper understanding of course content, which can be particularly helpful for leaders who are taking professional exams such as the MCAT or the DAT. SI leaders, who are already good students, are able to improve their learning skills by serving as leaders. Being an SI leader can be a great resume booster, as this is not only a leadership position, but leaders are able to describe their responsibilities and experience to demonstrate their development through this role. SI leaders are also able to develop much closer relationships with faculty than many other students, which carries the added benefit of a detailed letter of recommendation, for example, for the SI leader for their course. We not only acknowledge these benefits for SI leaders, we highlight these benefits as we recruit new leaders, as we know that our best and brightest students have many choices regarding employment, and we want them to understand all the benefits of serving as an SI leader. Finally, there are several benefits for institutions with SI programs. SI improves learning, boosts retention and graduation rates, develops those students serving in the very challenging role of SI leader, and is cost effective. Certainly, there are costs associated with running an SI program, so this is not to say it is inexpensive. But in terms of the number of students who can be served in a group setting by one SI leader, it is a more cost effective model than other models of student academic support. Let's transition now to an examination of data collected by the International Center. These cumulative data are from submissions by accredited programs across the United States. Though accreditation is not a requirement for any institution wishing to implement an SI program, limiting the data set to include only accredited institutions ensures that the data are derived from programs implementing best practices. The data set reviewed here includes recent data from 37 institutions, representing 3,123 courses and nearly 390,000 students. The first graph demonstrates the percentage of DFW final course grades for SI participants compared to students who did not participate in SI by institution type. Please note that for each institution type represented, you will see the percentage of Ds, Fs, and withdrawals for students who attend 1 to 4 sessions within a term, orange, 5 to 9 sessions within a term, yellow, and 10 or more times within the term, green. The final two bars show, in aggregate, those who participated in SI at least once, blue, compared to those who did not attend at all, red. There are zeros for the 2-year private institutions because at the time of this recording, we did not have any accredited institutions of this type. You will notice that regardless of institution type, students participating in SI have a lower rate of DFW than those who do not. In addition, the more sessions attended, the lower the percentage of Ds, Fs, and withdrawals. This graph is formatted in the same manner as the previous graph, but it shows the mean final course grades earned by SI participants compared to those who did not attend SI. We would expect that for each institution type, students who participate in SI would outperform those who did not in terms of mean course grades, especially for those attending 10 or more sessions. And the data bear out that expectation. We've been viewing the data by institution type. Let's transition now to a comparison across various disciplines. This graph displays the percentage of DFW final course grades, again for SI and non-SI participants, across business, health and medical, humanities, natural sciences, social sciences, mathematics, computer sciences, and other courses. All academic disciplines show that increased participation in SI results in lower rates of Ds, Fs, and withdrawals, with the lowest rate for those students who participate in 10 or more sessions within a term. Finally, we see mean final course grades by discipline for both our SI group and non-SI group. In nearly all cases, the highest GPAs are recorded for the students who attended SI the most, our 10 plus group, and the lowest mean GPAs for the non-SI participants. A caveat to note is that each institution's data will not always follow these exact patterns of outcomes. There are frequently anomalies within the data. Sometimes we will see that students who attend SI infrequently may not perform as well as students who do not attend at all. So if your program data do not always follow these exact patterns, don't be alarmed. However, these data are provided in aggregate to demonstrate that with larger numbers of SI participants included in the sample, we can see that SI is making a distinct positive difference in student outcomes. A question that is sometimes asked is whether SI can be implemented in any discipline. The simple answer is yes. This pie chart demonstrates the percentage of various academic disciplines that were represented within the data set that was just reviewed. While the largest portion, 43% of the data, were from natural sciences, you will notice that SI is implemented across the spectrum of courses that are offered on our campuses. In addition to effectiveness data collected from accredited U.S. institutions, we would like to share with you a recent study conducted at UMKC regarding SI's impact on retention. Using data from the 2016-17 fall and spring terms, an analysis was conducted using a program called Civitas Illume. Students who participated in SI were compared with like students who did not participate. The comparison spanned a variety of key demographic factors, including gender, race, ethnicity, number of terms completed, full-time or part-time, STEM major or non-STEM major. But in addition to these more typical factors, the Civitas program captures a past persistence prediction score for each student each semester. This persistence prediction score is a unique factor that really allows us to examine whether it was in fact SI that made the difference and to what extent. The results of our analysis at UMKC were astounding. You can see from the blue bar that the two groups of students that were compared had nearly identical predicted retention rates, right around 80%. But for students who participated in 3 or more SI sessions, the fall-to-fall retention rate was nearly 85%, compared to a fall-to-fall retention rate of 77.25% for students who attended 2 or fewer sessions of SI within the term. This is a 7.8% lift attributable to SI participation. This study reveals that 78 more students were retained at UMKC because of SI. Based upon tuition rates for our institution, 78 more students resulted in an annual return on investment, or ROI, of $590,000. Further, if those students who had attended just 1 or 2 sessions had attended 3 or more, we would have retained an additional 127 students for an additional ROI of $960,000. Of course, these calculations will vary campus by campus, but this study provides compelling evidence that SI is effective for student retention and is well worth the investment required to sustain a quality SI program. It is because of the amazing benefits of SI that this model has expanded worldwide. To date, faculty and staff from over 1,500 institutions representing 33 different countries have attended UMKC SI training workshops. In fact, here is a list of the countries that have been represented from around the globe. And while the International Center for SI is located in Kansas City, Missouri, there is a worldwide network of national centers in Australia, Sweden, South Africa, and Canada. The International Center for SI works closely with the staff at each national center to proliferate the best practices of SI through collaborative research, training, and resources so that institutions worldwide who are considering SI or who have existing programs can receive the information and support they need. We share this information in part to illustrate SI as an enduring practice, not only over time, but within various types of institutions in other countries. Regardless of where SI is implemented, it is a proven effective practice. Also, the fact that SI can be implemented effectively in institutions around the world demonstrates that it is an adaptable model. As long as the pillars of SI remain consistent, the model can be adapted to suit a variety of educational systems. Finally, SI's international network demonstrates the robust community you join when you adopt the SI model at your institution. In closing, we want to share a fun graphic that represents what SI is. Here we have our 3 mice facing a maze. These mice represent 3 students at the beginning of the term, examining the rigors and challenges of their course syllabus and wondering how they will ever make it to the end. And so our mice huddled together in their SI session, and working together, they are able to successfully tackle the challenge that lies ahead. We hope that this presentation has met your needs. Please know that if you have questions and/or if you are ready to address some next steps for your SI program, we are here for you. Please visit our website, and there are many resources available to help you there. You are also very welcome to reach out to our team by emailing us at icsi@umkc.edu. We wish you the very best as you take your next steps in your SI journey.